is known as the Golan Heights. Here's a little bit of a taste of the scenery for you. So the Golan Heights is a gorgeous, picturesque region in Israel, and this region pops up all throughout the timeline of the Bible, and it actually has the highest mountain peak in Israel, which is Mount Hermon, and it is actually home to Israel's only ski resort, which I think is awesome. I literally had no idea that there was a ski resort in Israel, but you learn something new every day. So recently you may have seen a video of mine where I do an Artza Box unboxing. Briefly, they are a Christian subscription box service that curates different items from a particular region in Israel and sends them to you on a quarterly basis. So that particular box in that video was made with items curated from the Golan Heights. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll link it up here and down below so that you can check it out after this video. But as for tonight, we are going to learn about how the Golan Heights shows up in the Bible. So let's get started. Okay, so essentially I have an article titled The Golan Heights Meaning in the Bible and for Israel by Esther Kuhn. I'll link it down below. Pretty much I'm going to be going through this article and looking up the Bible verses that it lists. So here we go. Actually, real quick before we get started with the article, I'm just going to flash up some pictures of the Golan Heights so that you can sort of get an idea of the area in your mind, just how lovely it is as we go along with our video. Okay, then I'm just going to read a little blurb about it here to, again, set the scene so you can picture this place in your minds as we go through the Bible reading about it. There is nothing like the Golan in the winter and spring months. Watching families, friends, and giggling children enjoying the snowy slopes of the stunning Mount Hermon truly warms our hearts. Breathing in the fresh, cool air of spring and watching the snow-capped hills melt away and transform into the snow-white covered blossom of the almond tree, the first of the trees to blossom. Can you smell the delicate scent of the flowers drifting through the wind, the shape of which inspired the shape of the menorah in the holy temple? Imagine King David sitting here in the Golan fields, looking out over the magnificent views of the Golan Heights, and the Mount Hermon rising towards the heavens as he wrote Psalm 133. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore. Okay, let's get started with the article. First of all, where is the Golan Heights? The Golan Heights is a strategic point in the north of Israel. Situated between Lebanon and Syria, it is a critical area for the security of Israel, but it was also a crucial area of land in biblical times. A good friend of mine in the U.S. military told me the Golan Heights is one of his favorite places in all of Israel. You can see both rolling hills and Syrian fortresses in the Golan. Alright, the Golan Hills in the Bible. The Golan is also known as Bashan in the Bible, Bashan, referenced in Deuteronomy 4:43, 1 Kings 4:13, Psalm 22:12, and Isaiah 2:13, for example. This is where the half-tribe of Manasseh settled, and Golan is named as a city of refuge in Joshua 21:27. Okay, let's go ahead and look up those verses. Alright, 1 listed was Deuteronomy 4:43, which reads, Bazir in the wilderness on the tableland for the Reubenites, and Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan for the Manassites. So like it said, this is the divvying up of the land for the 12 tribes of Israel. Alright, now in 1 Kings 4:13, Ben-Geber in Ramoth Gilead, he had the villages of Jair, the son of Manasseh, which are in Gilead, and he had the region of Argob, which is in Bashan, 60 great cities with walls and bronze bars. Alright, Psalm 22:12. Many bulls encompass me, strong bulls of Bashan surround me. Bashan must have had some strong bulls. Okay, let's see. This next one was Isaiah chapter 2, verse 13. I'm going to start reading at verse 12 just to make a little more sense. For the Lord of hosts has a day against all that is proud and lofty, against all that is lifted up and high, against all the cedars of Lebanon, lofty and lifted up, and against all the oaks of Bashan. Alright, final quote, Joshua 21:27. And to the Gershonites, one of the families of the Levites were given out of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Golan in Bashan with its pasture lands, the city of refuge for the slayer, and Be-Eshterah with its pasture lands, 2 cities. So again, that's the divvying up of the lands to the tribes of Israel. By the way, the Bible I'm using tonight is my Great Adventure Bible. It is in RSV, Catholic Edition, Second Catholic Edition, and if you're interested in learning a little bit more about this, it's really cool. It has various like articles, maps, all that stuff. Anyway, it is linked down in my description if you want to take a closer look at it. Okay, so we've seen the places where it talks about exactly who like owned that land, or who it was like divvied up to, which it was given to the tribe of Manasseh, one of Joseph's 2 sons. So moving on, I think this is really interesting. The area was also not foreign to the Philistines, who chose the highest parts of the mountains for their idol worship. The Bible specifically mentions Mount Hermon in Judges 3:3 and 1 Chronicles 5:23 as home to the rulers of the Philistines. These high places in the Golan were significant to cultures entertaining idols. It was thought that the higher the point, the holier it was. Later on, Prophet Elisha and the righteous kings Hezekiah and Josiah tore down these type of high places of worship. They confronted idol worship in the Canaanite. They confronted idol worship of the Canaanite gods. So if you've done or are doing the Bible in a Year podcast with Father Mike Schmitz and you've made it up to this point, which I think the year started over again, and I feel like this part wouldn't have happened yet. Anyway, you'll know that there's just days and days and days of like running through this list of kings who either took down the high places or didn't take down the high places, and that made them like a good or a bad king, because these high places were the places where these idols were put, and so they were not good places. And so apparently, because some of the highest peaks in the whole land were in this Golan area, the high places were located here. So that's interesting. So the next place that we are going to be talking about in this article is Mount Hermon, and I have an image of it here. And this is the highest mountain peak in Israel. So you can see there are some lovely snow-capped mountains, home to a lovely ski resort as well. And just very briefly, a little snippet about Mount Hermon. At 9,230 sea level. Mount Hermon is the tallest peak in Israel and can be clearly seen all the way from the southern shores of the Sea of Galilee. Mount Hermon is mentioned many times in the Bible, first as the ancient site of worship to the idol Baal, to which this day you can find over 200 caves carved into the mountainside, which were used as places of worship. It was also the home of the giants that Joshua defeated when entering Israel. The Hermon is one of our favorite places to visit, be it for long summer hikes with its magnificent views from its peak, or to ski down its snowy slopes in the winter. A day trip to the Hermon will never let you down. Okay, so back to the article. Here the Jordan River begins on its journey flowing south into the Sea of Galilee almost 60 miles away. The dew of Hermon described in Psalm 133 paints a picture of majesty and beauty. Let's look it up. Alright, Psalm 133, the blessedness of unity, a song of ascents. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. It is like the precious oil upon the head, running down upon the beard of Aaron, running down the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore. That's beautiful. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore. Back to the article. Can you imagine the view David had as he wrote this psalm, looking to the height of Mount Hermon in the north? He was envisioning the stream of water flowing and making its way south to the mountains of Zion in Jerusalem. David likened this gentle stream to a blessing that flows like oil running down the beard of Aaron the high priest. He meant the blessing of brothers sitting in unity where the Lord commands life forevermore. Alright, next section, Caesarea Philippi and Dan. Have you ever wandered through the Golan Heights with a Bible in your hand? You inevitably reach the city of Caesarea Philippi at the base of Mount Hermon. This Greco-Roman city was located near the ancient city of Dan. Do you remember the corrupt king Jeroboam who made 2 golden calves? He set one in Bethel and the second one in Dan. 1 Kings chapter 12, verses 25 through 33. This foundation of idol worship gave way to Dan becoming a center of Baal worship in the region. Meanwhile, the Israelites became attracted to fertility cults and allowed the city to become a pagan stronghold. Alright, let's hear about Jeroboam's golden calves in 1 Kings chapter 12, verses 25 through 33. Then Jeroboam built Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim and dwelt there. And he went out from there and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now the kingdom will turn back to the house of David. If this people go up to offer sacrifices in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then the heart of this people will turn again to their Lord, to Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they will kill me and return to Rehoboam, king of Judah. So the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold. And he said to the people, you have gone up to Jerusalem long enough. Behold your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And he set one in Bethel, and the other he put in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to the one at Bethel, and to the other as far as Dan. He also made houses on high places, and appointed priests from among all the people who were not of the Levites. And Jeroboam appointed a feast on the 15th sacrificing to the calves that he had made. And he placed in Bethel the priests of the high places that he had made. He went up to the altar which he had made in Bethel on the 15th day in the 8th month, in the month which he had devised of his own heart, and he ordained a feast for the sons of Israel, and went up to the altar to burn incense. Not cool, Jeroboam, not cool. Alright, next section, taken on a journey. In Matthew 16, we find Jesus taking his disciples to Caesarea Philippi, which is the previous section that we were just talking about, which, again, this is the city that is at the base of Mount Hermon, Caesarea Philippi. It is said that the city was so wicked that the rabbis forbade Jews to come to this area. But Jesus brings his disciples precisely to this setting in Matthew 16. They probably spent days walking the 25-mile journey north from Galilee through the Golan. Perhaps this long distance permitted Jesus to remind his disciples of the pagan stronghold area this was. It dates all the way back to the days when the tribe of Dan settled in the region. This Israelite tribe compromised their faith by allowing syncretism to seep in. Next section, divine conversation in the Golan Heights. In the midst of idol worship and the celebration of a false god, Jesus asks his disciples, "Who do men say that I am?" He purposely took them to a setting that exemplified such lewd acts of pagan sacrifice and immorality that would make our modern-day sin cities look juvenile. Yet, Jesus took the opportunity to draw a great distinction between the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. Peter answers Jesus' question with the proclamation that he is the Messiah, the Son of the living God, to which Jesus replied, a quote from Matthew chapter 16, verses 17 through 18, so let's look that up. Alright, so let's just read that whole section, which is Matthew 16, starting with verse 15. He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." So I read through verse 19 for that. So this author goes on to say, perhaps Jesus was pointing to the very rock formation where the pagan peoples built the temple to the Greek god Pan. This rock contained what visitors deemed the gates of hell. It was a natural spring with flowing water believed to be a gateway to the underworld. So the only thing about this is, of course, as Catholics, when we read this passage, Jesus is talking directly to Peter, and he says, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." He's not saying, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church," because then directly, I mean, that's in the same sentence, but then directly after that, Jesus says he will give him the keys to the kingdom. So anyway, just like a little point there. This article was not written by someone who is Catholic, so I just wanted to give that little disclaimer. Still very knowledgeable about the history of the Golan in the Bible, obviously. And so, just to be clear, Jesus and his disciples would have been wandering through the Golan Heights area on their way to that particular town, and so that whole conversation took place somewhere within the Golan Heights environment, so that's really cool. Alright, so this article ends with, "Travel the land where the word comes alive." The next time you read some of these passages in your Bible, remember the God of the book still speaks today. Ask him to reveal treasures in his word. Take time to study the geography of the book and get wrapped up in the story. God's word is alive and active today, and the Holy Spirit is ready to speak a fresh word in stories you may have read countless times before. It really is so easy to forget that, these very foreign sounding names of these locations in the Bible, they're very real places that are still obviously on this earth that you can go and visit today, and so